Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. Okay, first thing I got for you right here is Consumer Reports wants to ban this substance found in one of the most popular Easter treats, and that's my favorite, peeps. See what it says here.
Peeps are a favorite Easter candy, but they are being called out by Consumer Reports. The reason? Red Dye 3. The candy is made by Just Born Quality Confections. Consumer Reports senior staff scientist Michael Hansen said, Just Born Quality Confections should stop making its iconic marshmallow treats with this dangerous food chemical, since other less risky alternatives are readily available. Red Dye 3 has been shown to cause cancer and is outlawed in other products. Hansen went on, Red Dye number 3 has been banned by the FDA from use in cosmetics since 1990, but inexplicably is still allowed in food. There is a petition by Consumer Reports for the Just Born Quality Confections to stop putting the dye in their candy. And they are co-sponsoring a bill in California to have the dye banned.
Well, California bans all kinds of stuff. And actually, that's my second favorite. My first one is the chocolate marshmallow eggs. That's my first one, favorite. And I eat these hot potato chips called St. Louis style hot chips. Well, if you read it on the bag, it said not for sale in California. So I'm eating something bad in that, I guess. Anyway, it might have that dye in it. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this one's from Political Insider. Opinion. Even Mexican president thinks Democrat persecution of Trump is corrupt. See what it says.
By Dr. Derek Ellerman. I had held out hope that my country could stave off imperial decline until after my lifetime, or at least until I was an old man, too old to care. Unfortunately, things aren't turning out that way. We have found ourselves, tragically, living in interesting times. So interesting, in fact, that history's greatest hope is now getting lectures from some of the formerly most corrupt nations on the planet. So congratulations, my fellow Americans, you have lived to see your country fall so far that even Mexico can't bear to watch. That's the message Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, sent when he chastised the Democrats' attack on our democracy with the political persecution of President Trump. Support conservative voices. Sign up to...
Let's see what this says here.
Está declarando el presidente Trump.
President Trump has declared,
Expresidente Trump, que lo van a detener.
ex-President Trump has declared that he will be arrested.
Creo que hoy,
I believe today.
por un asunto
Because of an issue.
supuestamente, como dice
Supposedly,
presuntamente,
or as lawyers would say, allegedly,
sí, amoroso,
things of love.
que lo van a detener.
They want to arrest him.
Si fuese así,
If that is the case,
pues todo el mundo sabría,
then the whole world would know.
porque no nos estamos chupando el dedo,
Because we're not sucking on our thumbs over here.
que es para que no aparezca en la boleta.
That the real reason they want to arrest him is to remove him from the ballot.
Y si digo esto es porque yo padecí de la fabricación de un delito Porque
And
no
I say this
querían
because I too was a victim of a
que yo fuese
fabricated
candidato.
crime because they didn't want me to be the candidate.
Y eso es completamente antidemocrático.
And that is completely anti-democratic.
Porque no se le permite al pueblo que sea el que decida.
Because they're not allowing the people to be the ones who decide.
Okay, that's all on that one there. Trump has a lot of friends in these countries and, leaders. And Biden have no friends. They all want to fight since Biden been in. Let's go to the next one. Okay, there's another one from Political Insider. It says Republican AGs fighting Biden administration gas stove regulations.
"21 states' attorneys general wrote a letter opposing Department of Energy regulations regarding gas stoves. Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird joined the coalition in a letter Monday to Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm that said the department's standards for consumer conventional cooking products are an attempt to micromanage Americans' lives. The department released a supplemental notice of proposed rulemaking in February. Responses were accepted through Monday. The document said that the Energy Policy and Conservation Act, with its 2020 amendments, stipulates that any energy conservation standard must seek the maximum improvement in energy efficiency that the department determines is technologically feasible and economically justified. It must result in a significant conservation of energy. The Department of Energy's February 1 document said that under its authority in 42 U.S.C. 6295, H.2, it proposes that beginning in 2026, conventional gas cooking tops must have no more than 1,204 kBTU per year. Conventional ovens will not be allowed to have a control system with a linear power supply. The control system for gas ovens couldn't be equipped with a constant burning pilot light. The Energy Secretary had to publish a final rule in 1992 to determine whether standards for kitchen ranges and ovens should be amended and provide that the amendment applies to products beginning in 1995. With a 7% discount rate for consumer benefits and costs and nitrous oxides and sulfur dioxide reduction benefits, and a 3% discount rate case for greenhouse gas social costs, the estimated cost of the proposed standards for consumer conventional cooking products is $32.5 million annually in increased product costs, the department said. The estimated annual benefits are $100.8 million in reduced product operating costs, $67.0 million in climate benefits, and $64.9 million in health benefits. The net benefit would be $200.3 million per year.
And that's all I got on that one there. Let's go to the next one here. That's one here from Alcazar. China sends warship and aircraft around Taiwan for second day. See what it says?
Tensions have increased across the Taiwan Strait after President Tsai Ing-wen met the U.S. House Speaker. Taiwan's military is monitoring Chinese activity around the self-ruled island, and Wang/Reuters. China has deployed warships and aircraft near Taiwan for a second day and imposed sanctions amid anger in Beijing over this week's meeting between the self-ruled island's president, Tsai Ing-wen, and U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. 3 Chinese warships sailed in waters surrounding the island, which China claims as its own, while a fighter jet and an anti-submarine helicopter also crossed the island's air defense identification zone, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense said on Friday. On Wednesday, China's Shandong aircraft carrier was spotted sailing through Taiwan's southeastern waters on its way to the Western Pacific, hours before Tsai met McCarthy in Los Angeles. Beijing sent out repeated warnings before the meeting took place, and issued a rebuke on Thursday after the event had concluded. China will take firm and forceful measures to firmly safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said. Last August, China deployed warships, missiles, and fighter jets into the waters and skies around Taiwan in its largest show of force in years after McCarthy's predecessor Nancy Pelosi visited the island. McCarthy, who is the third most senior politician in the U.S., had also planned to go to Taiwan but eventually decided to meet Tsai in California. Its response to the Tsai-McCarthy meeting has been more restrained so far, but Taiwan remains on alert. On Friday, Beijing announced a tightening of sanctions on Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the U.S., Xia Baikim, as well as her family and any companies with which she has connections. Xia was previously sanctioned after Pelosi's visit.
And it's a little bit more to read. Let me finish this here.
China also blacklisted the Hudson Institute and Ronald Reagan Library, saying the two U.S. institutions had provided platforms and facilities for Taiwan independence activities by Tsai. Tsai, who was first elected president in 2016, argues Taiwan's future can only be decided by its people. China has not ruled out the use of force to take control of the island.
Okay, that's all on that one there. Link will still be in the description box on everything I have here. There's something here from Malcolm there. Why are migrant children working dangerous jobs in the U.S.?
It is an open secret that many children who cross the border into the U.S. alone end up working, experts say. Thousands of migrant children across the United States are working long hours in grueling, often dangerous, conditions in factories, farms, and mills. The children are alone in the U.S., typically having fled their countries, crossing the southern border without their parents. Many are seeking asylum and other protections under U.S. and international law, a process that can take years and cost thousands of dollars. As they wait, they are in need of ways to support themselves and, for many, to send money to their families back home. Overnight shifts and dangerous work violate multiple long-standing child labor laws. So how is this happening? And what does it say about how migrants are treated in the U.S.? In an upfront special, host Mark Lamont-Hilt speaks to New York Times investigative reporter Hannah Dreier, author of The Expose, Alone and Exploited, Migrant Children Work Brutal Jobs Across the U.S., and Mario Bruzzoni, senior policy advisor with the Women's Refugee Commission's Migrant Rights and Justice Program.
And that's all to read on that one there. There's a video here that I'm going to play a little bit of.
Hundreds of migrant children across the United States are working long hours in grueling, often dangerous conditions in factories, farms, and mills. The kids are alone in the U.S., typically having fled their countries without their parents. Many are seeking asylum and other protections under U.S. and international law, a process that can take years and cost thousands of dollars. And as they wait, they're in need of ways to support themselves and, for many, to send money to their families back home. Overnight shifts and dangerous work violate multiple long-standing child labor laws. So how is this happening, and what does it say about how migrants are treated in the United States? That's our conversation this week in an Upfront Special. Alone and exploited. Those are the opening words of a recent New York Times investigation that exposed widespread illegal employment of unaccompanied migrant children by corporations across the United States. Thousands of kids, some as young as 12 and 13 years old, are working grueling hours at highly dangerous jobs for prominent companies like Target, General Motors, Ford, and food processing giant Hearthside Food Solutions, which manufactures popular cereal brands Cheerios and Lucky Charms. The investigation describes children sawing planks of wood on overnight shifts, operating hazardous machinery, roofing houses, and working in slaughterhouses. So why is this happening on such a vast scale and in direct violation of U.S. and international labor laws? Joining us to discuss this are Hannah Dreier, an investigative reporter with the New York Times and author of the investigation Alone and Exploited, Migrant Children Work Brutal Jobs Across the U.S., and Mario Bruzone, Senior Policy Advisor at the Women's Refugee Commission's Migrant Rights and Justice Program. I want to thank you both for joining me on Upfront. Hannah, I want to start with you. You spoke with more than 100 migrant youth in 20 states across the United States who are working in highly dangerous, and I might add, illegal jobs. Many of these kids are laboring in brutal conditions, working punishingly long hours. According to some caseworker estimates, about 2/3 of unaccompanied migrant children in the U.S. work full time. That is mind-boggling to me. You said that it wasn't actually difficult to even find these kids, that this is happening more or less openly around the country. You talked to one 13-year-old. His name was Jose. He works on a commercial.
About 25 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Anyway, if you want to watch the rest of it, the link will be in my description box for you. And let's go on to the next one here. This is from Alcazar. Classified U.S. documents on Ukraine war leaked from report. See what it says.
War plans spread on social media reportedly contain charts and details about weapons deliveries and other sensitive information, New York Times says. A Ukrainian soldier carries an anti-aircraft missile system in an area of the heaviest battles with Russian invaders in Bakhmut, Donetsk region, Ukraine. File, Roman Chop/AP. Secret documents that provide details of U.S. and NATO plans to help prepare Ukraine for a spring offensive against Russia have spilled onto social media platforms, the New York Times reported. The apparent leak looked like a Russian disinformation operation to sow doubt about Ukraine's planned counteroffensive, a Ukrainian presidential official said on Friday. Mikhailo Podolyak told Reuters news agency the data contained a very large amount of fictitious information and Russia was trying to seize back the initiative in its invasion. The Pentagon said on Thursday it is assessing the apparent security breach. We are aware of the reports of social media posts, and the department is reviewing the matter, Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said. The documents were spread on Twitter and Telegram, and reportedly contain charts and details about weapons deliveries, battalion strengths, and other sensitive information, the Times said. There was no explanation as to how the plans were obtained. Information in the documents is at least 5 weeks old, with the most recent dated March 1st, the report said. The plans did not provide specific action, such as when Ukraine would launch the offensive.
Okay, and there's more to read on that if you want to read that. Let's see what this video has here. Oh, error code. So we ain't gonna play that. And you can read the rest of this in the description box if you like. Let me go into the next one. Next one from Ukrainska Pravda. Belarus deploys tanks to border with Lithuania. I can't see that. Let me let the computer read this.
Belarusky Hajuan, an independent Belarusian military monitoring project, has reported that the Belarusian army has deployed at least 10 to 15 tanks and other armored vehicles to the border with Lithuania. Source, Belarusky Hajuan on Telegram. Quote, last night, on the night of April 6th edition, a train carrying at least 20 pieces of equipment belonging to the Belarusian armed forces arrived at the Gugogai rail station, 9 km away from the Lithuanian border. The equipment included at least 10 to 15 T-72B/B3 tanks, armored personnel carriers, infantry fighting vehicles, and MTLBS, a Soviet multipurpose, fully amphibious, tracked armored fighting vehicle edition. Details. Belarusky Hajuan reported that the equipment that has been deployed to the Lithuanian border belongs to the 120th Brigade of the Belarusian Armed Forces, which is normally stationed in the Urukia district, Minsk. The train set out from the area on the evening of April 5th.
That's all there is to read on that one there, it looks like. But the link will still be in my description box for you. Let's go on to the next one here. It's from City AM. Oil and gas platforms will be brought to standstill and walkout by 1,300 offshore staff.
More than 1,300 offshore workers are to stage a 48-hour strike in a dispute over pay. Unite warned that dozens of oil and gas platforms will be brought to a standstill by the walkout from April 24th. The union has previously warned of a tsunami of industrial unrest in the offshore sector over pay and conditions. Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham said oil and gas companies in the offshore sector are enjoying record windfall profits.
And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. So that'll mean our gasoline and natural gas probably be going up too. Well, let's go to the next one. This from Hot Cars. This is why building an efficient EV charging network is almost impossible.
Electric vehicles, EVs, have been hailed as the future of transportation, promising a cleaner and more sustainable way of getting around. However, one of the biggest challenges facing the widespread adoption of electric cars is the development of reliable and accessible charging infrastructure. Building an extensive EV charging network is no easy feat, and various obstacles are standing in the way. This article will explore 3 key factors that make creating an EV charging network nearly impossible. The high cost of building charging infrastructure and the need for easy and accessible charging options are key hiccups here. But the most important is the limited availability of critical materials like copper and lithium used in EV batteries and infrastructure.
Said building EV charging infrastructure is expensive. The demand for easy and access charging stations, dwindling copper and lithium reserves for EV infrastructure. You can read the rest, all the rest of this in my description box if you like. I'm gonna go to the next one here. This from Fox News. Biden's Green War credited this billions-dollar tax on all of us. Yeah. That Biden make us pay more for stuff. Okay, we'll see what this says.
The OPEC announced policy to cut oil production by 1.6 million barrels a day is an embarrassing indication that President Joe Biden's repeated pleas to Saudi Arabia to increase oil output have fallen on deaf ears. What is worse is that it has been Biden's anti-fossil fuels climate change policies that have given OPEC new life to control world energy prices. Before Biden's policies, the U.S. had been the world's marginal producer, significantly offsetting OPEC production cuts with our own production increases. Our dynamic oil industry had sharply curtailed OPEC's influence over world oil prices. OPEC Plus announces surprise oil production cut that could lead to higher prices at pump. Biden's war on American oil and gas changed all that. U.S. domestic oil production in states such as Alaska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Texas, West Virginia, has been reduced by an average of roughly 2.7 million barrels a day. That is a cumulative total of 2 billion barrels, and counting.
And there's more to read on that if you want to read the rest. Wait a minute, let me read just one more paragraph here.
To make matters worse, by taking U.S. oil and gas out of the world picture, OPEC has been emboldened to reach into consumers' wallets by reducing its own production, which it now pledges to reduce by about 1.6 billion barrels. That's 4.3 million barrels a day missing from the world market.
Okay, and you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. I'm going to go on to the next one here. This from CNN. We're at a tipping point. What to expect from jobs report Friday.
The U.S. labor market has kept trucking right along even as other areas of the economy have slowed. But that once high-octane ride is showing some signs of wear and tear amid the Federal Reserve's year-long efforts to cool inflation by suppressing demand. Job cuts are mounting, hiring activity is losing momentum, and uncertainty is simmering as to how the banking sector's recent tumult could ripple through the economy. I think the image, for me, that most sums up where we are in the labor market is the chart in this tweet by Bloomberg's chief economist, Michael McDonough, which shows that mentions of job cuts are now higher than mentions of labor shortages in earnings calls, said Julia Pollock, chief economist at online employment site ZipRecruiter. That's a big reversal after 2021 and 2022 were very much the years of the labor shortage and everyone was talking about how they were struggling to find workers. We're at a tipping point now, she added.
Don't believe when they say that, jobs are good and a lot of people being hired. That's White House propaganda. There's more here if you want to read more about it. Russia's not the only one with propaganda in China. White House is full of it. Let's go to the next one. This is from the Premier Daily. Stephen Hawking said he had a simple answer when asked whether he believed in God.
Stephen Hawking shared his opinions on the afterlife before he died. He was a groundbreaking theoretical physicist, and his genius made others interested in his views on God and the afterlife. In multiple interviews and writings, he shared his thoughts on the existence of a higher power and the concept of an afterlife. The question of belief. When asked about his belief in God, Hawking's response was clear. He believed that there was no proof of a higher power and that the universe could be explained through the laws of science. In an interview with El Mundo, a Spanish newspaper, he stated, "Before we understand science, it is natural to believe that God created the universe. But now science offers a more convincing explanation." Hawking's views on religion were not limited to a single religion. He believed that all religions were based on the same principles of faith and did not offer any factual evidence. He is, for all intents and purposes, an atheist. The Grand Design. In his book, The Grand Design, co-authored with Leonard Mlodinow, Hawking went further into his beliefs on the universe's origins. He argued that the laws of physics, rather than a divine creator, were responsible for the creation of the universe. He wrote, "Because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing, why the universe exists, why we exist, too." No afterlife. Hawking's views on the afterlife were similarly grounded in science. He believed that the concept of an afterlife was nothing more than wishful thinking. In his final book, Brief Answers to the Big Questions, he wrote, "No one created the universe and no one directs our fate. This leads me to a profound realization: there's probably no heaven and no afterlife either. I think belief in an afterlife is just wishful thinking. There is no reliable evidence for it, and it flies in the face of everything we know in science." 3. That said, Hawking does not dismiss anyone else's beliefs to impose his own. "We are each free to believe what we want, and it's my view that the simplest explanation is there is no God," he explained. Conclusion. Stephen Hawking's views on God and religion were shaped by his experiences as a scientist and his dedication to understanding the universe through the laws of physics. While his beliefs may have differed from those of others, but his contributions to science will continue to be celebrated and remembered for years to come.
Yeah, Stephen Hawking thinks the same way I do. Y'all may disagree with me. That's fine. Everybody has their own way they want to think. But since my daughter died a few years ago, and no matter how much I prayed, it didn't help. The hospital didn't help, and I start thinking about it. Religion is just a scapegoat, so you can have something to look forward to. in my opinion. And I don't believe in heaven and hell. No, there's no afterlife. Once you're dead, you're dead. And Stephen Hawking thinks the same way as I do. He's my idol. Anyway, comment if you like. Let me know what you think. And we'll go on to the next one. This is from Ukrainska Pravda. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Equipment Russia transferred to Metropole over 4 days explodes.
Melitopol Mayor Ivan Fedorov has reported that explosions which rocked Melitopol on April 6 occurred in an area where Russian military personnel and equipment were gathered over the course of 4 days leading up to the incident. Source: Ivan Fedorov on the National 24/7 newscast. Quote from Fedorov: At around 21:30 yesterday evening, explosions could be heard in Melitopol and the village of Vasil in the Melitopol district. Earlier information indicated that enemy forces had been transferring their personnel and equipment to the area over the course of 4 days. The enemy attempted to jam mobile service and internet in the village while doing so, in order to prevent its residents from reporting information about the Russian activity to the armed forces of Ukraine and security services. But they failed to disguise it.
And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. And let me go to the next one here. This from Best Life. IRS releases a last-minute warning. These claims and forms could get you audited. Let's see what it says here.
IRS releases last-minute warning. These claims and forms could get you audited. The end of the 2023 tax season is just around the corner, with less than 2 weeks left to submit returns. But if you're racing to get things done before the deadline, you should be aware of the potential pitfalls ahead. The Internal Revenue Service, IRS, is doling out some essential last-minute advice to taxpayers, and it includes warnings about the claims and forms that could get you into trouble. Read on to find out about the schemes that put you at risk of being audited by the IRS.
Okay, there's 5 paragraphs here.
The IRS warns that taxpayers should always be on the lookout for scams. Every year, the IRS compiles some of the most common schemes taxpayers are likely to face in its Dirty Dozen list. The Dirty Dozen represents the worst of the worst tax scams, the agency warns. But while these cons become more prevalent during the tax season, the risks don't end once the season does. In an April 5 press release, the IRS announced that it has completed its 2023 Dirty Dozen list with a new warning urging taxpayers to continue watching out for these scams throughout the year. Many of these schemes peak during filing season as people prepare their tax returns, the agency explained. In reality, these scams can occur throughout the year as fraudsters look for ways to steal money, personal information, data, and more. But if you haven't filed yet, you'll want to pay close attention to the schemes directly related to your tax return.
A lot of people that haven't done their taxes yet. I usually do my February, March, and I think that's pretty important.
Some of the most common scams push misleading tax advice. Scams surrounding fraudulent claims and forms are a common fixture on the Dirty Dozen list. According to the IRS, taxpayers this year should be concerned if they have been advised to claim 2 things on their returns: the Employee Retention Credit, ERC, and the fuel tax credit. As the agency explained in its new alert, scammers have been trying to convince people to claim these credits on their 2022 returns in an effort to increase refunds. But many taxpayers are not actually eligible for the ERC or the fuel tax credit this year. The IRS also warned that misleading tax information has been circulating on social media this season in an effort to get taxpayers to fraudulently file certain forms. This includes common documents like Form W-2, as well as those meant for a limited group, like Form 8944. Both schemes encourage people to submit false, inaccurate information in hopes of getting a refund, the agency said. Taxpayers should always remember that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. These schemes could put you at risk of being audited. Making false claims and filing fraudulent forms could put you at risk of being audited and fined. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division is always on the lookout for promoters and participants of these types of schemes, the agency warned in its new alert. Where appropriate, the IRS will challenge the purported tax benefits from these types of transactions and impose penalties. You may still be on the hook for consequences even if you've fallen victim to a scam, according to the IRS. Taxpayers should think twice before including questionable arrangements like this on their tax returns. After all, taxpayers are legally responsible for what's on their return, not a promoter making promises and charging high fees, the agency explained. Taxpayers can help stop these arrangements by relying on reputable tax professionals they know and trust. Other common cons could put your personal information at risk. An audit isn't the only thing you need to worry about when it comes to the common scams targeting taxpayers this year. As IRS Commissioner Danny Werfel warned in the agency's new alert, scammers are coming up with new ways all the time to try to steal information from taxpayers. This may include various phishing and smashing schemes, which you should be on high alert for even after tax season ends. According to the IRS, con artists often try to impersonate tax and financial officials in an effort to target taxpayers. These messages arrive in the form of an unsolicited text, smishing, or email, phishing, to lure unsuspecting victims to provide valuable personal and financial information that can lead to identity theft, the agency explained. The IRS initiates most contacts through regular mail and will never initiate contact with taxpayers by email, text, or social media regarding a bill or tax refund. Best Life offers the most up-to-date financial information from top experts and the latest news and research, but our content is not meant to be a substitute for professional guidance. When it comes to the money you're spending, saving, or investing, always consult your financial advisor directly.
Well, the question I have is, IRS said if you fall for these scams, you can still get penalized and fined. Well, couldn't we fine and penalize the IRS because they tell the people go to this one website to do their taxes free and they get a virus on their computer? What about that? Let me know what you think. I think the IRS should pay for anybody that got a virus on their computers because the IRS told them to go there and do their taxes. Let's go to the next one. IRS and Biden both makes me mad. Okay, this one's from 2 paragraphs. BlackRock CEO says $50 trillion needed for a complete change.
Investment behemoth BlackRock is in the news because its Paris offices are again under siege by French protesters who implicate the giant asset manager in President Macron's push to raise the retirement age. As far back as 2020, mainstream media like the New York Times covered the rising enmity for BlackRock among protesters who claim BlackRock has tried to influence and stands to profit from Mr. Macron's overhaul of the nation's pension system. The Times also said there was no evidence for such a claim, and BlackRock itself denied the claims strenuously, saying, "We reiterate that BlackRock has never been involved in the current pension reform project and does not intend to be." The company labeled claims of its involvement an unfounded controversy driven by political objectives. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is no stranger to being targeted by populist movements, having stood at the increasingly controversial forefront of investors pushing companies to adopt ESG measures, with a special emphasis on sustainability.
And there's a little more to read if you like. Oh, a lot more to read. That's all I'm going to have on that one there. Let's go to the next one here. This is from 1945. Russia could lose billions in arms sales to China. Here's why.
After years of living on the edge, Russia's position as a major global arms exporter looks likely to careen into a catastrophic collapse. China appears poised to take advantage, potentially replacing Russia as the major weapons supplier to countries that are barred from purchasing Western arms or that can't afford them. The context. For most of the history of the People's Republic of China, the arms trade with Russia has run one direction. Technology and equipment goes to China in return for resources, cash, and political influence. The USSR helped stand up China's Defense Industrial Base, DIB, after the end of World War II, entering into licensing and technology transfer agreements that allowed the PRC to build Soviet equipment from Soviet kits with Soviet technical assistance. Over time, the PRC's defense industrial base became more accomplished, although the Sino-Soviet split and the Cultural Revolution had a catastrophic impact on the development of China's DIB. The Soviet Union continued to use arms sales as an adhesive to commit customers to long-term political relationships, but increasingly faced competition from cheaper Chinese weapons. As the Cold War ended, China again became a customer for Russian military equipment and Russian technology. Deeply in need of hard cash, Russia was happy to sell China whatever Beijing wanted to buy and to help modernize the Chinese DIB.
Okay, there's more to read on this if you like. The link will be in my description box, like always. And I think two more. My time's getting long here, 42 minutes. Okay, this is from Business Insider. Kevin McCarthy says he's very concerned he won't reach a deal to raise the debt ceiling because Biden never wants to meet.
Kevin McCarthy said he's very concerned he and Biden won't reach a deal to raise the debt ceiling. He blamed the lack of progress on Biden's unwillingness to meet and negotiate a deal. But Biden has been adamant that Congress must pass a clean debt ceiling bill without spending cuts. It's not easy to be Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy right now. For months, he has been trying to reach a deal with Democrats to raise the debt ceiling and keep the U.S. on top of paying its bills before the country defaults, an unprecedented economic catastrophe that could happen as soon as July. He's remained true to his stance that Republicans will not agree to a clean debt ceiling deal, and that his party should use it as leverage to achieve spending cuts on Democratic priorities. Full screen.
Yeah, I'm going to stop it there. You can read the rest of this in my description box. You know, it really kills me. You know, Biden thinks he's doing so good. You know, we get all these countries want to fight us, and we'll be going into a recession because of Biden. Oh, like that one movie that I love to see, The Grapes of Wrath, way back in the past when everybody was poor. Okay, let's go to my last one here. Snoop. This is from Snoops. Did Anheuser-Busch fire its entire marketing team?
Claim on April 5, 2023, Anheuser-Busch fired its entire marketing department over the biggest mistake in Budweiser history. Rating, labeled satire. On April 5, 2023, claims began to spread online that Anheuser-Busch had fired its entire marketing department over the biggest mistake in Budweiser history. We found the claim, however, to come from a satire website. There's no evidence any of it happened. True, Anheuser-Busch fired its marketing department over biggest mistake in Budweiser history, a Twitter user posted. The nail in the coffin was Kid Rock shooting the crap out of a bunch of beer and banning the beer from his upcoming tour. Bud Light sales dropped 80%. It linked to an article that supposedly supported the claims. The claims spread on at least one other website, as well as on social media platforms like Facebook. The satirical article came in the middle of right-wing backlash to the company partnering with transgender TikTok influencer Dylan Mulvaney to promote the company's March Madness contest, as well as gifting her a commemorative can. We reached out to the company for comment, and will update this check if we hear back. The website the fake article was shared from was Patriot Party Press, which is a subsidiary of America's Last Line of Defense, LLOD. We've repeatedly fact-checked the website before, which has the following disclaimer on its About Us page. About satire. Before you complain and decide satire is synonymous with comedy. Sati are noun, the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. Everything on this website is fiction. It is not a lie and it is not fake news because it is not real. If you believe that it is real, you should have your head examined. Any similarities between this site's pure fantasy and actual people, places, and events are purely coincidental, and all images should be considered altered and satirical. See above if you're still having an issue with that satire thing.
Box if you like. And that's all I got for you. I hope I gave you information you can use or helps. And remember, I'll be reading, or at least the computer will, speaking about world news, interesting news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. And I thank everybody for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, at least come back once in a while. And thanks again. Until next time. Later.